As we all know, 2020 has proved to be a very challenging year. The Ashland School Board has arranged for use of the gymnasium to arrange for this deliberative session with mask requirements and social distancing. If a family wishes to sit together, that's perfectly fine. Otherwise, we're asking that everyone please sit 6 feet apart from one another with masks on. Just so you know, because of COVID-19, the Ashland School has provided us use of a locker room attached to this gym. Can you hear me okay? Okay. They go around on the far side of the building where they'll be able to hear us, participate, and everything. These special arrangements have been made so no resident is denied their ability to participate in today's important town meeting. All right. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Where's the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a few items. I'm Bobby Horter, your town moderator. We have your Board of Selectmen to my right. We have the Ashland's, Budget Committee to my left. Sandra Coleman, who's also on the Budget Committee, is acting as my assistant town moderator. Everyone should have picked up your voting guide that helps you along as we go through the articles, and a red, if we vote, you don't say aye or nay, you raise your card, or when we vote. I'm asking everyone to please mute your cell phones, and this is your opportunity to ask any questions. Anyone wishing to speak should raise their hand to be recognized by me before speaking. Then you'll come to the microphone, and please state your name and address, and you'll have your red card with you. Today we'll be going over 29 warrant articles. Because we have a lot, initial presentations are limited to 5 minutes, responses to 3, and all votes will be taken by hand by holding up your red card. Okay, we'll begin. Okay, the Article 1 is the election of officers and the slate of people running. Board of Selectmen, 3-year term, there are 2 positions. Andrew Fitch and Robert Letourneau are running. Board of Selectmen, 2-year term, there is 1 position. Anne Marie Barney is running, Kathleen DeWolf is running. Town Clerk, Tax Collector, 3-year term, 1 position, Patricia Tucker and Rebecca Hartley. Trustee of the Trust Funds, 3-year term, 1 position, Lisa Rollins. Library Trustee, 3-year term, 1 position, Mardine Badger. Budget Committee, 3-year term, 2 positions, Lee Nichols. Budget Committee, 1-year term, 1 position, David Ungonst. I'm sure I mispronounced it. Cemetery Trustee, no one ran for that position. Okay, the first article, Article 2. All right, go to the microphone.
I have a question for Town Council about the position of selectmen and conflict of interest. I've looked up online New Hampshire municipal statutory law that says that someone who is a full-time employee of the town cannot also be a selectman. However, New Hampshire law also does not define full-time employee. However, it does say that it clearly doesn't apply to someone who just gets a small annual stipend, but it is recommended that anyone whose decisions on budgets might be influenced by his or her personal pecuniary interest should not serve in these positions. Furthermore, it does talk about common law incompatibility, in that two positions might be incompatible even though they're not listed in RSA 669:7 or any other statute. The idea has to be with loyalties involved. My concern is that if someone who holds a town position, a committee positions paid by the town, salaried, becomes a select board member, does that not put that person in the uncomfortable position of being his or her own boss?
No, they just.
And would that person not have to recuse himself or herself quite often and also get in a rather murky territory for decisions made by the Board of Selectmen, particularly in the very litigious age in which we live? The town has incurred, as we all know, tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees just in the past couple of years. And I'm concerned as a taxpayer, because those fees have to be paid somehow, that decisions made in the future by a select board in which one of the members is also a town employee could be objected to by people who disagree with them and want to take them to court. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm deferring now to legal counsel. Thank you.
Does the council want to answer, please?
Yes. I commend you for your research. I think you are accurately stating both the law and the potential conflict and the reason for it.
But it doesn't matter, she can still run.
That's your answer? Also, I'm not supposed to interject, but that position, she is a part-time employee.
She is, however, as I pointed out.
Amanda,
Okay.
Amanda, if you're going to be, you can't be right on top of the microphone.
I'm sorry.
All right.
As I said, New Hampshire state law, and as council agreed, does not define part full-time, but does talk about having incompatibility, conflicts of incompatibility. And my concern is, as I said, in the past just 2 years alone, this is a question, I guess, for the Board of Selectmen. How many dollars in legal fees have we paid? 30,000?
Yeah, but that has
More
nothing to
than
do
that.
with this.
60?
That has
That's-
nothing to do with this.
That's not the issue.
Well, I think that it opens up the town to having people get really mad because they're going to cite what I
don't
just
agree.
cited.
I don't agree.
It's
Okay. Does the attorney have anything further to say?
Why don't I wait till the second question and maybe I can address both together?
All right.
I understand Amanda's concerns, and it's nice that she has, brought that to the forefront. However, I think if the voters elect this person in, obviously they're aware of it. I think the legal fees that have been paid had nothing to do with an employee. It was a total different type matter. It was orange and apples. And I feel that we're a small town, and we only have these two people that came forward. So it's going to be difficult to find somebody that's not related at all to any issue.
Okay, thank you. And does the attorney, do you have anything else to add?
I think I got most of that. It's so hard when we're all wearing masks, but someone can be disqualified from serving in a position. It is true that the only statutory prohibition is for full-time employees, but there are conflict of interest provisions that apply as well that could, even if this person were seated, disqualify them from many of the votes. While state law does not define full-time and part-time, the Ashland policies do, and then I won't get into the minutia of how to define employment matters, but I think the department, the role that someone has in a decision-making capacity is also relevant in applying common law, and I think the question is an important one. I mean, there is a direct conflict if there's full-time. I think the decision-making piece of it is also relevant because it would define how many times and how often and on what sorts of things they would have to be recused if, in fact, there wasn't an absolute bar.
Okay, thank you.
Bobby Ann has her hand up.
Ann?
How many times do other select board members have to recuse themselves from a vote? This would only affect the Park and Rec, which is the department I'm the head of. I don't think, I'm not full-time, I am part-time. We've had other people that have had to recuse themselves from Park and Rec decisions because they were related to me. It's a small town. I put things forward and the board votes on them. 3 of the 5 have to agree to it. Me stepping out still leaves a majority. But I know in the past, people have had to, for different reasons, had to recuse themselves and not be able to do votes. This is one department, and I just wanted to let people know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on. Article 2, the estimated tax impact is $11.65. Shall the town of Ashland raise and appropriate the town general government operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant, or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth, totaling $2,924,276. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $3,462,000, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town of Ashland or by law. Or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13-10 and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. This was recommended by the Budget Committee on a vote of 4-2. And the first number is always the ayes. Second number is the nays. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Seeing no hands, I will, the Article 2 will appear on the warrant as on the ballot as presented today. Article 3, no tax impact. Shall the town of Ashland raise and appropriate as the Ashland Electric Department, operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant, or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $2,798,945. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $3,058,970, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town of Ashland or by law. And I'm not going to read all the legal stuff there. Recommended by the Budget Committee of a vote 4-2. Any questions or comments? Seeing no hands, Article 3 will appear on the ballot as presented today. Article 4, no tax impact. Shall the town of Ashland raise and appropriate as the Ashland Water Department operating budget, not including appropriation by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget, posted with the warrant, or as amended by vote of the first session, for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $224,900. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $224,971, which is the same as last year. Recommended by the Budget Committee, a vote of 4-2. Any questions, comments? Seeing no hands, Article 4 will be on the ballot as presented. Article 5, no tax impact. Shall the town of Ashland raise and appropriate as the Ashland Sewer Department operating budget not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein totaling $496,911. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $502,290, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Town of Ashland or by law. Recommended by the Budget Committee, vote of 4-2. Any questions? Seeing none, Article 5 will appear on the ballot as presented. Article 6, estimated tax impact, 11 cents. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $27,142 for the fourth payment of the 5-year lease purchase for the Public Works loader. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0, recommended by Budget Committee 7-0. And does anybody have any questions? Okay, seeing none, Article 6 will appear on the ballot as presented. Article 7, estimated tax impact is 50 cents. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $125,000 to be deposited into the Road Improvements Capital Reserve Fund established in 2012 for the purpose of repairing roads. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, vote 4-3. Do I have any questions or comments?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello, down there.
Oh, this, and you are,
Sherry Downing.
okay,
Sanborn
Ms.
Road.
Downing, and your question?
Could I get a balance of that capital relief fund as it stands now?
Okay.
Is there anyone that can answer that question?
She wanted to know if she could get a balance, the remaining balance, in that capital reserve fund now. We're getting the answer.
Thank you.
Ms. Downing, did anybody come back there?
No.
Okay.
According to the MS9,
Uh.
332, 350.
Road improvements. The remaining balance is $332,350.
That's according to the MS9, which is the end of the year.
According to the MS9, which is the year-end amounts that they send to the state.
Okay, thank you.
Bobby David has a question. I think his name is David.
Walter?
Whatever his name is.
Walter Durack, I'm
Oh,
trustee of
Walter.
the trust funds, and I can confirm that the amount in the capital reserve fund is $332,350.80.
Perfect. Same amount. That's a good thing. Okay. Any other comments or questions? And Ms. Downing, if no one's up there, you can come down here. That's up to you.
Okay.
I'll leave that up to you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, is it no other questions on Article 7? It will appear as it is on the ballot as it's presented. Article 8, estimated tax impact, 8 cents. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 to be deposited into the Police Department Capital Reserve Fund established in 2013 for the purpose of repairing or purchasing police department vehicles. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0. Recommended by Budget Committee, 7-0. Any comments or questions?
Yes.
Yes?
If I could get the balance of that capital
Okay.
reserve fund also?
Okay.
Well, he's probably got,
Walter, do you want to answer?
So happens I have the MS9 open. The balance in the police car capital reserve fund at the end of 2020 was $35,944.
Okay, thank you.
I can't hear him.
Any other questions? Okay, Article 8 will appear on the ballot as it's been presented. Article 9, estimated tax impact 10 cents. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be added into the Fire Department Capital Reserve Fund established in 2013 for the purpose of repairing or purchasing fire department vehicles. Recommended by the Board of Select, 5-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 7-0. Any questions?
I do.
Does she have her hand up? Oh, I couldn't see it. Okay, Ms. Downing?
I would also like that
Balance.
I would just like, I want to apologize, but not really. I just want people to know what are in the capital reserve funds before we
What's
vote
in
and
What's in
everything.
there now?
And I'm not saying I'm against them or whatever. I just feel that the people should know what's in those accounts.
That's fair. Walter?
All right, thank you.
That capital reserve
And
fund-
it's hard to hear Walter.
Okay. How's that? The capital reserve fund had a balance of $305,716.06.
Okay, thank you. Article 9 will appear on the ballot as presented.
Bobby.
Oh, did somebody else want? Sorry, didn't see your hand.
Okay,
Chief
I
Heath?
just wanted to state that in spring of this year, 210,000 of that will be used to make the final payment on the new engine, okay, which will leave us with somewhere around 95 or so.
Thank you for letting us know. Article 9 will appear on the ballot as presented. Article 10, estimated tax impact 10 cents. To see if town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be deposited in the Department of Public Works Capital Reserve Fund established to 2016 for the purpose of vehicle or equipment purchase, replacement, or repairs. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0, and recommended by the Budget Committee, 4-3. And so Sherry's indicated it's capital reserve, so she'd like to know that balance.
Thank you.
Please.
Public Works Capital Reserve Fund had a balance of $83,312.53.
Walter, could you repeat that, please?
Sure. $83,312.53.
Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Oh, Article 10 will appear on the ballot as presented. Article 11, estimated tax, 10 cents. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be deposited into the Ashland Library Building Capital Reserve Fund, established in 2015 for the purpose of purchasing, building, and/or renovating a facility, including furnishings and equipment for the Ashland Town Library. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 4-3. And since that's another capital reserve, can you tell us the remaining balance, please?
Thank you.
Balance of the library building capital reserve is $121,265.53.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, any other questions on this? Okay, Article 11 will appear on the ballot as presented. Article 12, estimated tax impact 4 cents. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added into the Building, Maintenance, and Repair Capital Reserve Fund for the purpose of maintaining and repairing all town buildings. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0. The Budget Committee does not recommend this article. The vote to recommend failed 3-4. And can you give me that remaining balance?
Thank you.
Balance in that CRF is $42,979.12.
Thank you. Any other questions on that? Jane?
Can the Budget Committee explain what any of the arguments were to vote against this?
She wanted to know if someone in the Budget Committee can explain why it failed by the budget, why they voted against it. Jeanette, did you want to answer that?
I think the reason is the town manager had changed, before they had, each department had their own maintenance and repair line. And the town manager changed that so that everything was all into the town line. So 3 of us decided that, that isn't something that we understood and didn't think that it should be done, so that's why we didn't recommend it. We feel that each department should have their own.
Does that answer your question, Jane? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Article 12 will appear on the ballot as read. Article 13, no tax impact. See if the town will vote to establish a contingency fund for the current year for unanticipated expenses that may arise, and further to raise and appropriate $25,000 to be deposited into the fund. This sum to come from the undesignated fund balance and no amount to be raised from taxation. Any appropriation left in the contingency fund at the end of the year will lapse to the general fund. Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0. The Budget Committee did not recommend this article. Vote, it failed 2-5. Any comments or questions? Jane?
What are the expected expenses that would come out of such a contingency fund? What is it to cover? What will it be used for?
Primarily in the past, it has been used for legal expense.
That's not the one. I don't think.
Okay.
But I thought legal fees were on a retainer. Isn't that already included in the budget?
I cannot, okay.
You're not
He should
close
be at a
enough.
microphone.
Did you turn your mic on?
Yeah, you can't hear.
You're right, we do have a retainer for standard legal expenses.
You need to speak into the
We
microphone.
do have a retainer for standard legal expenses. However, as I'm sure that most of you are aware, we were hit with some very major unexpected legal expenses that really put a strain on our budget. So we put that in a couple of years ago to help out with that. We keep it on because when the unexpected happens, we have something else we can draw on without going over the line. So while it has been used for legal in the past, it may or may not be in the future, we hope.
Did that answer your question, Jane? Okay. Any other questions?
Up here.
I think Sherry has something.
Sherry, did you have a question?
Yes. Could the Board of Select tell us how much they have spent on that court case? And please speak into the mic because it's very difficult to hear.
While I don't have an exact figure, I know at one point it was over $125,000.
On that one case?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Amanda? Don't start talking until
I'm
you,
not gonna talk too close to this. Amanda Loud has no problem.
we're aware of that.
I don't know if you are at liberty to discuss this, but is this over $120,000 legal fees, that had to do with something that was with the Board of Selectmen? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? Thank you. Article 13 will appear on the warrant as written. Article 14, no tax impact. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $30,000 for the purpose of purchasing a defibrillator for the Ashland Fire Department. This sum to come from unassigned fund balance, no amount to be raised from taxation. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 7-0. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, Article 14 will appear on the warrant as presented. Article 15, no tax impact. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $32,000 for the purpose of purchasing and installing mobile data terminal technology for the Ashland Police Department cruisers. This sum to come from unassigned fund balance, no amount to be raised from taxation. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0, recommended Budget Committee 7-0. Any questions or concerns regarding this? Seeing no hands, Article 15 will appear on the warrant as presented. Article 16, no tax impact. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $9,100 for the purpose of purchasing police officer body cameras for the Ashland Police Department. This sum to come from unassigned fund balance, no amount to be raised from taxation. Recommended by your Board of Selectmen 5-0, recommended by Budget Committee 7-0. Any comments or concerns? Seeing no hands, Article 16 will appear on the ballot as presented. Article 17, no tax impact. To see if the town will vote to change the name and purpose of the existing Road Improvement Capital Reserve Fund to the Road and Bridges Capital Reserve Fund for the purpose of maintaining and repairing town roads and bridges, and further to name the Board of Selectmen as agents to expend from said fund. 2/3 majority required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0. Any comments or concerns? Craig is going to address that. Thank you, Craig.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Craig Bohr, Public Works Director. The reason for doing this is we had the Winter Street Bridge inspected this fall, and it requires about $154,000 worth of repairs. So right now I don't have any funds to repair that bridge, but there is money, as Sherry got the number of that. We have about $330,000 in capital reserve now for roads. A little bit of that's going to have to be used for the sidewalk tap project that's going to start this spring, so there won't be enough, and we'll be able to chip away at the bridge repairs, but if we have to change that to include bridges, to change that so we can use that money that we have in the bank to fix the Winter Street Bridge before it's completely gone. Right now it's repairable. It's a very manageable repair, but if we don't do it, it's going to be millions of dollars down the road, and I don't want to get to that point. So I want to fix it now, and while we have a chance.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Any questions? Jane, that answered your question. Any other questions? Seeing no hands, Article 17 will appear on the warrant as discussed. Article 18, no tax impact. To see if the town will amend the article passed in 2005, which created the Fire Department Apparatus or Equipment Fund, to allow funds in this account to be used additionally for the purpose of paying the billing fees associated with ambulance transports. Further, to name the Board of Selectmen as agents to expend from said fund. 2/3 majority required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 5-0. Any comments? Chief Heath?
The voters passed this article last year, but the issue was that there was no one named to expend the funds. Therefore, we went through this last year, again, taking it out of our EMS supplies fund, our operating line. So this is simply to identify the select board as the authorities to expend funds from there. And again, the purpose of this is to pay the town share of any ambulance transports. There's a billing fee that goes with that, and the funds to pay that billing fee would come out of this, the ambulance fund itself.
Thank you. I actually have a question. I don't understand why you wouldn't be, you're the head of the fire department, wouldn't you know best about what bills are due and when, what you pay? This is just a legal thing that we have to do?
I'm supposing that it is. I need to, what I do is I submit bills
Okay.
to the town, to the finance office, so I believe it
And they
is
sign
under
off.
their domain.
Okay. From the lawyer, is this just a legal, okay. All right, thank you. Okay, Article 18 will appear on the warrant as presented. Article 19, no tax impact. To see if the town will vote to establish a trust fund to be known as the Scribner Building and Park Trust Fund, with the trustees of the trust funds to be responsible for the financial administration of that trust, and for which the library trustees will be responsible for decisions on expenditures to repair and maintain the building and grounds, and further to authorize the acceptance and deposit into this fund of the corpus of the Emma H. Scribner Trust, which is being terminated in accordance with a non-judicial settlement agreement with the New Hampshire Division of Charitable Trusts. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen of a vote for 5-0. Okay. Walter, as the trustee, right, correct?
Hi, everyone. I'm going to explain as best I can, objectively, what Article 19 means. The Scribner trustees, as you know, 3 of the 5 are town trustees ex officio, which is why I'm speaking as a town trustee. The Scribner trustees looked at the balance in the trust fund over the summer, which was approximately $97,000, and we asked the Attorney's General Office, who we are required to report to. They have oversight of all municipal charitable trusts in the state. We said to them, we understand that in 1937, what was left in Mrs. Scribner's will was $40,475. So does that mean that we are allowed to spend all the way down to $40,475 on maintaining the building and the grounds that the library is a tenant of? The Attorney General Office said, no, actually, you can't spend all the way down to $40,475. That was the original principle in 1937. It's appreciated, or should have appreciated, due to at least the rate of inflation over the course of 84 years, meaning that there should be, according to generally accepted accounting principles, about $740,000 in there. That meant that for years, Scribner trustees had been actually spending the principal in violation of Mrs. Scribner's will that said trustees were only allowed to spend the income generated from the investment. The Attorney General Office said that Mrs. Scribner's will could no longer be followed because of how the fund balance was in 2020, and through a legal process called CPRE, if I've got that correct, they terminated Mrs. Scribner's will, terminated the provision in her will that said only the income generated from the investments could be spent. That CPRE that said we can no longer follow her will exactly said we are going to continue to follow her will as best we can and as close to her intended purpose as possible. which is to use the money in that fund to maintain the building and the grounds. The library has been permanently housed in the Scribner building since 1939. The Grafton County Superior Court in 1970 said the library met the definition of a community center. Mrs. Scribner's will said that building was to be used as a community center. A library meets that definition. Should this article pass, it means that the entirety of the money in the Scribner Trust can be spent on maintaining the building in the grounds, and the library's capital reserve fund can also be used to support the building's needs.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay, Amanda.
Town council on that. Hi. Amanda Loud, trustee of the trust funds, and then ex officio Scribner as well. Although Scribners haven't existed for about 2 months because the Attorney General's office dissolved this because there wasn't a trust to be a trustee of. I have a question for town council. What happens if the thing doesn't pass? What happens if Article 19 doesn't pass? Because I know the Scribner funds have been frozen, which is why I'm no longer a trustee, because there ain't no trust anymore. What happens if this thing doesn't pass?
Well, that's an interesting question. I just wanted to add to what was already described, and that is to say that there was a process in New Hampshire law that sort of expedites and makes it easier without going through a full cypre proceeding. A cypre proceeding just means that you want to change the nature of what you spend the trust on. So this is going to be for the same purpose. So the Attorney General's office, there's a division within the Attorney General's office called the Charitable Trusts Unit. And the trustees went and had a conversation about transferring these assets from dissolving the Board of Trustees, transferring the assets into the town fund. It would be the Scribner Building and Park Trust. It was done by a non-judicial settlement, which is what both Mr. Durek and the latest speaker were speaking to. It has already been approved by the Attorney General's office. But under the statute, it needs to have approval by the town. So if the town votes this down, I think that's kind of an interesting question. It may have to come back again, but the judicial settlement has already been entered into and approved by the Attorney General's office, but the funds couldn't be transferred until there's approval.
Okay, thank you. And I have another question for town council. I've heard word on the street sometimes that the library, I'm talking about the Scribner building, that it's against Emma Scribner's will to put on an addition, but I've read her will and I haven't seen anything like that. Is that true? Because the library has a capital reserve fund now that we've already paid for, and they're going to get, if this passes, Article 19, they're going to get about another $100,000 to work on it, which means that the library can, and if you all have been in there, you know that there's some need there, that the library can improve its building, maybe put on a small addition, and it's not going to cost our tax bills any money because the money's already there. Now, my question is, that's legal, right? To use that money that way.
So
We're all hoping so.
I don't have a copy of the trust in front of me, but if the money is transferred pursuant to this warrant article,
Yeah.
it permits both use of the interest, which was what was supposed to have been done under her will, and use of principal upon approval. It would be held by the trustee of the trust fund, which is a town department, and upon application to the trustee of the trust fund for a legitimate purpose,
Right?
it could be expended.
Okay, great. So, just wanted to clear up some things that I've heard.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Article 19 will appear on the ballot as presented. Article 20, no tax impact. To see if the town will authorize the Board of Selectmen to accept, expend, and hold in trust gifts, legacies, and devisees for any public purpose without further action by the town pursuant to RSA 31:19. This authority shall continue in effect until rescinded. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, vote 5-0. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
Yes. Hello?
Does Sherry have, are you holding your hand up?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay. It's hard. You know, if no one's in there, you're free to come down here,
Okay.
unless you want to stay in the locker room. Go ahead with your question.
Shoot, I forgot which one it was. Okay, 20.
What is your question?
Do they have a specific gift? Word on the street, the Scribner building down on Mill Street was sold. Did the town own that? Not the library Scribner building, the one down by -33. Isn't that a Scribner building too?
While I do not believe that the transaction is complete, there has been at least one person interested in it from buying it from Andrew Lane.
Okay.
Okay.
So
It's
not
does
a
the
town
board
building.
have gifts in mind they want to accept?
I can't hear your question.
Do they have a specific gift they want to accept?
Is there a specific gift, or is this just general? Mardine?
I believe this is to enable the transfer of the old Scribner Trust to the new trust. And because in the non-judicial settlement, this particular RSA is cited, so I believe it's a housekeeping issue to enable the process.
So you're saying it's Article 20 kind of goes together with Article 19 in a way. Is that what you're saying? Not really? All right, Patsy?
Well, Article 20 is, 3119 is, it's an article, and it's an RSA that probably should have been voted on years ago. Because there wasn't, I can't remember what year it was, but we did quite a few of them that would make things happen and until rescinded and stuff like that. 3119 was just, didn't happen to happen. And so it's just something that just needs to be done.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing no further hands, Article 20 will appear on the warrant as discussed. Article 21, no tax impact. Shall we permit the public library to retain all money it receives from its income-generating equipment to be used for general repairs and upgrading and for the purchasing of books, supplies, and income-generating equipment as per New Hampshire RSA 2002A:2A, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0. Any comments or questions? Okay, Patsy?
I asked Charlie this question. So we haven't adopted this. So what has the library done with their funds now? They're just sitting there? They're waiting to be expended. Okay.
All right, Mardane, can you answer that?
This is another one similar to the last one. It's one that should have been approved years ago. It's just a standard process.
Okay, thank you. Does that answer your question, Patsy? Did that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing no hands, Article 21 will appear on the ballot as presented. Article 22 is our first petitioned warrant article to see if the town of Ashland will vote to unconditionally, completely, and absolutely discontinue an unmaintained Class 6 town road known as Parkway, formerly known as Hill Street, the road, pursuant to New Hampshire Revised Statutes annotated 231:43. The road to be discontinued is described as follows: a two-lane road approximately 228 feet in length, beginning at the intersection of the road with the right-of-way of Mill Street and ending at the intersection of the road with the right-of-way of Depot Street. Upon the discontinuance of the road under the terms of this article, the voters hereby authorize and direct the selectmen to relinquish the town's interest in the land under the road, whether by deed or other recorded instrument, to the abutting property owners, who are L.W. Packard and Company, Inc., and Commerce Property, LLC, or their designees. Board of Selectmen do not recommend this article on a vote of 5-0 unanimous. Any questions? Tony?
My name is Anthony Randall. I'm a licensed land surveyor. I am currently doing research for L.W. Packard about the road. My research is about complete. I will tell you that I found the original layout for that road back in 1869, and that original layout went from the junction of Pleasant Street all the way down through the mill property, across Mill Street, and up to and terminated in the area where the Tom Wynn property was, which was a big brick house that sits on the left-hand side on Winona Road. Mr. Glidden and I were having conversations about this road because he wanted the town to give him a deed to it. I explained to him that they couldn't give you a deed to it, that it had to be discontinued because it was a town road. I know from talking to Mark Oba, former road agent in town, for at least 38 years that he was there. He gave me a letter that he provided to the selectmen about the town not maintaining the road. And in his 38 years of being the road agent, he never ever maintained or plowed that road. Mr. Paquette, who took over for Mr. Ober, told me the same thing. They never ever plowed it or maintained that road. Once a road is not maintained by the town for 5 years, it lapses into a classification of being a Class 6 town road. I don't think Craig, I talked to him, and I believe since he's been the road agent, they have never maintained the road. What will end up happening is this little stretch of road, the original layout was only 2 rods wide, which meant the total width of the right-of-way was only 33 feet. What will end up happening if the town votes to discontinue the road, the line would probably place down the middle of the road. I'm not certain about some of it because of the way the deeds are written. It's going to take a little more analyzation on my part. I got a couple of other deeds that I need to look for at the registry because it's all important about how the deeds were conveyed to where the line actually gets placed. So what would happen is, in theory, the line would go down the middle of the road. Commerce Properties on the other side would get 16.5 feet, and the L.W. Packard property would get 16.5 feet. The road length is only about a couple of 100 feet from the right-of-way of Mill Street to Depot Street. The town really doesn't utilize the road. They don't maintain it. Mr. Glidden and Commerce Properties, or L.W. Packard, they are taxpayers, and if the town doesn't want to vote to discontinue this road, I think they ought to start maintaining it for the taxpayer, which are those people that own property that abut the road. I think Mr. Glidden was supposed to show up, but I don't see him here. He could testify or give you information about what they used to do. The town actually let the mill plow the road. The mill used to maintain and take care of that road because of their employees that they had when the mill was thriving. I will tell you that the section of that layout between Mill Street up to the termination of Mechanic Street was discontinued and turned over to the landowners. I don't remember the date that was done, but that was done by a vote of the town as well. I think it's important that if the town's not going to utilize something, maintain it and take care of it, we get it back on the tax rolls. And so that's the big thing, is get this land back on the tax roll to generate some tax dollar for us. I think that's pretty much it. And If anybody has any questions, certainly I could talk to them and try to explain some stuff. The other thing, I saw that the selectmen, all 5 selectmen said no, they didn't want it, they didn't support the article. And I'm just trying to figure out, could somebody tell me why they don't support giving that up?
Does someone want to address? Okay. Kathleen?
We did not have the information to act on. We had no information provided to us at all. Or the information you just gave to the public, we were not in receipt of any of that to make a decision on.
Okay.
So, the petition warrant article was premature, that we needed all this information to provide to the public before it's put on the warrant. So it was, cart was put before the horse, so to speak.
Okay, so now that everybody has the information, how do the selectmen feel about it now?
That we're not in a position to vote on that now.
You could if you wanted to, but that's up to your board.
That's fine, so just, you have the information now, hopefully you will, when it comes voting day, you will support the article. And I would recommend that the taxpayers in town also support that article.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To the attorney, I have a question. Can they vote now, the Board of Selectmen, if they wish to? So that the warrant would be, you know, should they change their vote? I'm not asking them to change their vote, but I mean, could they vote?
Well, I think at the public meeting that they looked at it, they would have looked at it or asked for more information. I guess there's nothing that would stop them from deciding to recommend it at this point. But I think the public meeting at which it was considered, there may have been other information that was noticed. It's not really noticed.
Right.
For a
Now, are you
discussion
talking
today.
about the, when all these warrants were presented at the public hearing? Are you talking about that public meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Because there was only one board member there, so, all right. Kathleen?
I was going to say that we do not have in hand the information that Mr. Randall just provided.
Okay, so I take that as a no. Is that a no from, not voting your no, but I mean, you're not going to vote again, correct?
I would like to have the documents in hand.
Okay,
in
it
order
wasn't
to-
discussed at the public hearing, so
Yes.
Tony has his hand up.
we're moving on, unless somebody, Tony? Pardon me?
Did the selectmen receive?
Tony,
Tony,
can you put the mask over your
oh,
nose?
sorry. Did the selectmen receive Mr. Ober's letter? Did the selectmen receive Mr. Ober's letter?
Yes. Yes.
That's not good enough?
After the fact.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Petition warrant article will appear on the ballot as presented. Article 23, petitioned warrant article, estimated tax impact 4 cents. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $9,760 for the Pimmy Baker Community Health. Recommended Board of Selectmen 5-0, recommended Budget Committee 7-0. Any questions? Seeing no hands, Article 23 will appear as on the ballot as presented. Article 24, estimated tax impact 2 cents. Shall the voters raise and appropriate $6,000 to Grafton County Senior Citizens Council for services for Ashland residents in 2021? Recommended by your Board of Selectmen 5-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 7-0. Any questions? Seeing no hands, Article 24 will appear on your ballot as presented. Article 25 is petitioned warrant article, estimated tax impact 1 cent. Shall the voters raise and appropriate $3,500 to Lakes Region Mental Health Center for the delivery of emergency mental health services? Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 7-0. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, Article 25 will appear on your ballot as presented. Article 26, estimated tax impact, 1 cent. See if the town will vote and raise and appropriate the sum of $3,000 for the fiscal year 2020-2021 to support Voices Against Violence, a nonprofit crisis center and shelter providing emergency shelter, court, and hospital accompaniment and general support to women, men, and children who are victims of domestic and sexual violence and stalking. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0, recommended by Budget Committee 7-0. Any comments? Seeing none, Article 26 will appear on the ballot as presented. Article 27, estimated tax impact 1 cent. This is also a petitioned warrant article. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,000 to be deposited into the account of the Ashland Historical Society for the purpose of maintenance and repairs to the Whipple House Museum owned by the town of Ashland. Board of Selectmen do not recommend this article, a vote of 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, a vote of 6-0. And I see Mr. Rule is at the mic.
Okay. David Rule, I'm the president of the Ashland Historical Society. This is a kind of unusual request for us. We, as far as I can recall, which is a long time, we have never asked the town for money. We are, however, facing an unusual situation this year with the Whipple House Museum.
I think you need to get a little closer to the mic.
I'm sorry. We do have an unusual situation this year with the Whipple House Museum. A large part of the roof has to be reshingled. That's what the roofers are telling us. And it certainly looks like it has to be reshingled. The cost is going to run, from the estimates we're getting so far, $10,000 to $12,000, which we simply do not have. We do get some income from the rental of the Whipple House apartment, but we've pretty much spent that. And we spend that on a number of things, from utilities and insurance and mowing the lawn and all that kind of stuff. And there's not going to be enough money from the rental to cover this cost. So we are looking at a grant, possibly a matching grant from the Daughters of the American Revolution, but we still are not going to be able to come up with enough money. So we are asking for the first time for the town to actually give us some money to deal with the situation, because you don't want a leaking roof. I mean, if you just let it deteriorate, then things get worse. I mean, both for the structure of the building and for the collections inside. So we'd like to do something about this roof this coming year. So that's why we're asking for this money at this time.
Thank you. Any questions? Lisa?
Lisa Rollins. How much is the rental income from that property?
The question is, how much is the annual rental income from that property?
$3,900.
$3,900. Did I get that correct?
Yes.
Jane?
The annual cost for things such as David said, electricity, water and sewer, insurance, mowing, and supplies runs about $2,000 a year. And when we did an analysis over the last 5 years comparing the income associated with the Whipple House and expenses, it comes out to a total loss of $3,000. In the past 5 years, we had to rebuild one of the chimneys from the roof line up and do all the repair inside the damage it caused. We've had to have numerous skunk removals, which is expensive. We've repaired and painted all the windows, shutters, and sills. We've repaired and painted the back of the house. We've repaired and re-roofed the barn. We've removed many encroaching trees. We've installed dehumidifiers. Also in the tenant area, we have done the main gas heater, the shower, vent fan, hot water tank, and recently, this fall, we had to replace the kitchen heater. The tenant has historically contributed some funds towards, to defray some of the cost of those items. Does that help? The tenant has helped in the past with some of the items that we've had to replace in the apartment.
And I assume, Jane, you're speaking as you're a member of the Ashland Historical.
I'm sorry, yes, I'm the treasurer.
Well, I kind of figured that, but just for people maybe watching. Amanda?
Because this Whipple House is a town-owned building, my question is to the Board of Selectmen, why do you not recommend this article? Isn't the town responsible for town-owned buildings? I mean, I don't know, so I'm asking.
To start with, I'm going to say that we did not have any information about any repairs until this article appeared in our mailbox that was given to the Board of Selectmen.
It's a nonprofit.
Okay, David?
Well, we just assumed, like every other nonprofit organization, we would have to...
Come to the microphone.
I just assumed that, like every other nonprofit organization, we would have to present a petition warrant article for town money. That's what everybody else does, so that's what we did. So.
Okay. All right.
On November 2nd, I emailed to all the selectmen and the town manager, as required by our lease with the town, a full report of repairs and expenditures that had been done for the past year. On that report, it also indicated in the future we were looking at doing some roof repair issues that we had just been advised of. The other thing is, we do lease this property, and the Historical Society is responsible for the repairs that need to be made. So historically, we've only gone to the Board of Selectmen when it's an item that is beyond just repair and maintenance, and we have to seek special permission.
Thank you. Did you still have a question? Tony?
Mine isn't really a question, it's just we need to support this article, and the reason we need to support this is because it's part of the history of the town of Ashland. We have no problem shipping our money out of town, so why don't we pick and choose and maybe take care of ourselves this time? It's $2,000. If you don't fix the roof, you're going to ruin the building. We all take care of our roofs at our houses. It's the same thing. So please support this article. It's not about who's supposed to or who's gonna
Right.
or all the arguments that we go through all the time. It's about doing the right thing. And the right thing is vote to give them $2,000 to fix the roof.
Thank you. Any other? Seeing no hands, petition Article 27.
Up
will
here,
appear-
Bob.
What?
I'm
Sherry.
sorry. You had a question? Okay, I can't see your hand at all, okay.
Oh, sorry.
Okay,
Well, I don't know. I guess this is a question for the Board of Select. So you didn't get information on this article either? I find that odd. Did the town manager have this information when we had one and not pass it on? Or was it, I don't know, I just find it hard to believe that you guys didn't have this information. The people that write these warrant articles try to supply you with that information.
Jane is indicating, Sherry, I don't know if you can see this room, that yes, they had all the information as of November 2nd, 2020. The Board of Select as well as the town manager? That's what Jane is indicating.
Okay, but did either...
I don't have an answer.
I thought one of them said they didn't have that information.
Kathleen said that.
That's what Mr. Wolf said.
Oh, okay.
I can say about...
Okay, Eli.
We just recently received the information from Jane Sawyer. She asked if we had gotten I reviewed my emails and found that I had not received anything from,
Jane?
but we have now.
That's correct. I resent the November 2nd email. My question is, when you send an item to the emails that are posted on the Ashland public website, to the Board of Selectmen and the town manager, I find it strange they don't bounce back, and 6 people didn't receive it. And then we're told we didn't do it. So I think, do we have to hand deliver and get a receipt? Is that the recommended procedure in the future?
I don't have an answer for that.
I have a question.
Kathleen, are you asking a question?
I didn't hear anything she said, honestly.
Open ears.
I resent recently the November 2nd email. My question is, I use the emails that are on the Ashland website for selectmen and the town manager. It's difficult for me to understand when the emails did not bounce back to me as being not received, that 6 people, in fact, did not receive it.
I have a question up here.
Is that Sherry?
Yes.
Okay.
Is the board willing to vote on this one and recommend this or not?
Bobby Allen way down had his hand up. too.
Pardon me?
Alan Silly had his hand up.
Alan? Sorry, I didn't see you. Go ahead.
I would just like to point out that this vote was 3-0. That indicates that 2 members were not present, just for everyone's information.
Thank you. Well, I think the same legal answer applies to this warrant article as the one in the past. Since there was only one Board of Select member at the public hearing where it's the public's right to come and ask all these pertinent questions, and no one came, it's on the warrant now. There's statutory obligations the state tells us to do in preparing the warrant. So I do not believe that they can vote again. Am I correct? The attorney? I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I only heard part of that. Could you repeat the last
I
part?
said, I think the same law applies. All these warrant articles were gone over presented to the public at the public hearing.
Yes.
There's only one Board of Select member present. And so I think the time for revoting is over because we have statutory requirements on when we prepare the warrant and get it ready for our town meeting.
Yeah, I mean, the public meeting is the place to discuss the warrants and when they're
Correct.
going to come on. There's nothing that says at this deliberative session, selectmen can't express their support or lack of support individually, but yes, putting it on the warrant is decided at the public meeting.
That's what I thought. Okay, so the same law, does everybody understand that? Okay. Sherry, you all right with that? Okay. So Article 27 will appear on the warrant as written, presented. Article 28 petitioned, estimated tax payment 1 cent, to see if the town of Ashland 2021 to 2022 will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,200 for the Day Away program, a nonprofit organization for those people having dementia or a related form of dementia, whose purpose is to provide the caregiver a time of respite and help the participant to maintain their independence and encourage socialization. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 4-0. Any questions or concerns? Okay, seeing none, Article 28 will appear on the warrant as presented. Article 29 is a petition warrant article. to see if the town will vote to have the Ashland 4th of July Committee remain as a Town of Ashland committee. The committee will have the continued free use of the L.W. Packard Field and its facilities for the Independence Day celebration. The committee will use town properties to raise funds for current and future celebration and the committee's expenses. The committee's funds will remain as Ashland 4th of July funds as a non-lapsing fund until the purpose no longer exists. The funds for the safety services during the Independence Day celebrations shall continue to be included in the annual town budget. The warrant article will remain in effect until voted to rescind by town meeting vote. Board of Selectmen do not recommend this article, a vote of 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, a vote of 5-4, 0 against, and I believe the last number is 2 abstentions. Does anybody have any? Amanda?
I'm Amanda Loud. I was on the 4th of July Committee from 2013 to 2017, and in 16-17 I was actually the chair of the committee. Now, when I was on it, we discovered that if you're a town committee, your funds lapse, which means that you have a fiscal year to spend them or you don't get them back. And I'm sure that there's many of us in this room and at home that have been on committees where you've been told, hey, you got $250, you better spend it, it's going to go away, things like that. And so back in 2014, I believe it was, we realized that we didn't want to lose our money. So we housed it with the Heritage Commission. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong, legal counsel, but my understanding, it was our understanding at the time, was that there's only 2 kinds of town, I guess committee in the right word, commission, where your funds won't lapse, where you can put your funds, where you can keep them and not lose them at the end of the fiscal year, and that is the Heritage Commission and the Conservation Commission, because they're not committees, they're commissions. So we put our money there in Heritage for that reason, and that bought us the time on fundraising to where we were fundraising about 18 months in advance. We always had, bills are due with 4th of July, January 1st, and we always had the money we were always raising for the next year, you know, because we got to keep our funds because we had them in a non-lapsing account with Heritage. Now, as I read this, I don't think the thing's enforceable because you can't have non-lapsing town funds. They're going to go back into the general fund. You can think about the 150th if you want to, and how y'all raised that money, and it was a town committee, and then it went back to the town because it's a town committee. That's New Hampshire statutory law. I mean, that's not something that, and you can want whatever you want, but you got to bow to the law. And so my understanding is that this isn't enforceable, which means that if this passes, you all put a smile on your face and everything, but then the Board of Selectmen can still do whatever they want to do with the money because it's town funds. Now, if the 4th of July wants to keep their money, and I've been there, done that, and you want to keep the money, they need to put it, in my opinion, in the Heritage Fund, or they need to establish themselves as an independent 501c3, which is just a matter of filing some papers with the federal government. And once you do that, then you can keep your money. I'm all for you keeping the money. I've been there, done that. You don't want to.
Okay, Amanda, what is your question?
Well, my question then is for legal counsel. Am I right?
And I'm the moderator. I don't answer the question, but
if you would please
you've been
ask
the whole
legal counsel
afternoon
if this is
directing your
correct.
questions.
If this is correct and if it's enforceable.
Okay, because you've said it's not enforceable. I don't believe you're an attorney. We'll go to the attorney. Okay, we'll let the attorney answer the question.
Large parts of this petition warrant article are not enforceable. One part of that would be that it does not specifically create a trust, and to just specify it as a non-lapsing fund the speaker's correct. That's not sufficient to create a trust. Likewise, management and regulation of town property rests with the Board of Selectmen unless it's explicitly transferred. That authority is explicitly transferred to the committee, and I don't believe this warrant article does that sufficiently. Finally, the last portion of it, which specifies that safety services will be continued in the town budget, is also not enforceable because that is the job of the budget committee. The creation of a committee or the continuation of a committee and the authority to use the L.W. Packard Field for the 4th of July celebration would be enforceable if the town elects to do so.
Okay, Fran?
First of all, Amanda, thank you so much for your comments. This is precisely why we asked the 4th of July committee to no longer be a town committee and to seek other options. When they were under Heritage, it was a little bit more obvious how they could raise and keep the funds. We gave them 1 year and told them that they should look into becoming a 501c3 or find another umbrella under which to operate, because you're absolutely correct about maintaining the funds. It got very, very complicated. They have chosen not to do that and instead have submitted this warrant article. And we have had these discussions, and as our attorney just explained, much of it is not enforceable. So I would like to propose that we amend this warrant article to include only the first 2 sentences. Let me say that we have not been opposed to the 4th of July. I know we've been accused of that. We've never been opposed to them using the field. We've been fully supportive. It all has to do with the way it's done. So my proposal is that we amend this article to include only the first 2 sentences. It would say, to see if the town will vote to have the Ashland 4th of July Committee remain as a town of Ashland Committee. The committee will have the continued free use of the L.W. Packard Field and its facilities for the Independence Day celebrations. That's where it would end. All of the other stuff will have to be worked out logistically, and it's not going to be easy, but if we want to keep the spirit of this petition article, we can keep the first 2 sentences.
Okay, I'm going to interject and ask the town council. It's always been my, in my training as moderator, it's always been my understanding petition warrant articles cannot be amended.
Any article can be amended.
A petition warrant article?
Yes. As long as it doesn't change the topic of the warrant article.
I guess they changed the law then.
Jane has a question.
Yes.
So the article would read, to see if the town will vote to have the Ashland 4th of July Committee remain as a Town of Ashland Committee. The committee will have the continued free use of L.W. Packard Field and its facilities for the Independence Day celebration, period. Right?
That's your motion, correct? Do I have a second?
Who's second?
Who? Did anybody second that? Eli? All right, now there'll be discussion.
My question is, I know when they were under the Heritage Commission, I think it became an issue of it was decided it wasn't an appropriate committee for the purposes that the Heritage Commission is established. If you only make it a town committee and we don't make any provision for the 4th of July funds, what happens to those funds when they're raised every year? And I think that has been, I understand, one of the biggest issues.
Good question.
And that is clearly the problem, which is why, we asked it to not be a town committee anymore. But the petition has to stay. They want to be a town committee. All that other stuff is going to have to be worked out. We can't work it out in advance.
So there's no answer as to where the funds would go. Okay. Jane?
I know some of the committee did approach different nonprofits in the area about becoming part of their committee becoming part of it. In terms of a 501c3, I have been involved in those in the past. Filing for those is not just a couple papers. It's a very long and expensive process.
Thank you. Any other questions, responses? Sandra?
I'd like to ask a question to the lawyer. What
Okay.
RSA is petition warrant articles? Because I am also under the impression that you cannot change a petition warrant article.
We can't hear your response.
If you give me a minute, I will find the actual article. But there is nothing different about a petition warrant article with regard to the deliberative session. It is subject to the same process as every other article. And if the...
Well, I disagree, not from a legal opinion, because I'm not a lawyer. The people that, they have to have 25 signatures? Correct, Patsy? For a petition warrant article, 25 signatures?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Do they
Yes.
have to have 25 signatures for a petition warrant article?
Yes.
Yes.
I think it's a little, this is just my opinion, I'm not speaking as a moderator, I'm speaking as Bobby Horder, taxpayer. I think it's a little disingenuous to the 25 people or however many signatures they got to put your period there and take out all those other things. That's what the residents or whoever went around to get these, that's what they signed. And that's why it's always been my understanding, because of that very theory. People went out, got residents, and then Patsy Tucker, as town clerk, verifies that they are indeed town taxpayers, residents. I just feel, and this is personal, that it's a little disingenuous to go back and completely change them. Changing other articles that it's the Board of Selectmen, no problem. But I was always trained you cannot change. And to me, I don't know if there's 4th of July committee members here, to me, that's completely changing the meaning of the warrant. But that's just my personal opinion. I'll step back as that. Mardine?
Obviously, I am not a lawyer, but my understanding has been when a petition warrant article is submitted, it must be put in the draft of the warrant word for word as submitted, but it can be amended at the deliberative session. Is that the distinction?
Okay, she's looking up.
Yes, I think that is accurate. If it's
So it has to
petition-
be, it can't be amended before it goes on, and then it can be amended here.
Right, that's
Okay.
the purpose of this session, is
Okay.
for the town to discuss
And can you
it.
go to the microphone, please? And then Craig. Thank you.
Hi, I'm John Harville.
You're going to have to get closer to the mic.
I'm John Harville, and I've got a question about the difference between appropriated funds and non-appropriated funds and lapsing and non-lapsing. The 4th of July is non-appropriated funds because it's all donations, and it goes into, a town line item. Since these are non-appropriated funds, why are they lapsing? That's my question.
Good question. To the lawyer. Did you want to answer that before
Sure.
this next question?
Without getting into municipal budget law, I will say that in order to create a fund for which funds can be appropriated or raised funds can be designated to go into, that's possible, but you have to actually create that trust fund that the trustee of the trust fund would manage. This just doesn't, the language of this just doesn't do that.
Okay, thank you. Craig?
Yeah, I just looked up the warrant articles, and she is very correct. You can amend it as long as you don't change
The meaning.
The meaning. And I just looked it up under New Hampshire Municipal. It's under RSA 40:13.
Okay, thank you, Craig.
Yep, you got it right here.
Thank you.
Thanks. Go ahead, Kathleen.
For the budget committee members, it's on page, oh gosh, I gotta put my glasses on. Page 31 of the basic law of municipal budget.
Okay.
That explains about amending.
Okay. I stand corrected. Any other discussion? Amanda?
So when I heard the attorney mention it as a trust fund with the trustees being the trustees of the trust funds over it, my ears perked up because that's what I am. So are you saying, is the attorney saying in essence that what this really needs to say is to create some kind of CRF or something that the trustee, no, I'm seeing head shake. How would it need to look for the trustees of the trust funds to be the ones that serve over this, like what you just said?
All right, the attorney.
I'm reluctant to propose language to change the warrant article to make it fit within that, but I think it has to be more explicit. The warrant article as proposed doesn't do that. It simply says, sorry, I'm buried under paper here. The committee will use town properties to raise funds for current and future celebrations and the committee's expenses. The committee's funds will remain as Ashland 4th of July funds in a non-lapsing fund until the purpose no longer exists. The language within that, I think, is vague enough that there's some big holes in terms of enforceability, in terms of a specific delegation of authority to manage the lands of the town to the committee, and a specific creation of a trust fund. So I think it's just a matter of whether this is written as enforceable. I think the last sentence, though, there isn't a way to rewrite that to make it enforceable because it infringes on the role of the budget committee.
Okay, do you have new information or a new question? Go up to the microphone, please.
My question is if we vote on the amendment that was already motioned and seconded?
Yes, that's what we're discussing.
Yes. If we vote on that, would the 4th of July committee be able to then work with the town?
I have no idea. It's up in the air because the amendment...
Well, that's my question to the attorney.
Okay.
If she would,
It has nothing to do with the article. There's a motion and a second on the floor to put the period after the second sentence. You can't...
No, I don't want to add anything else. I was just asking that as an informational thing.
Okay.
Please.
I don't understand the question, do you?
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anything new? Otherwise, I'm going to ask for a motion to call the question. Do you have something new? All right, go to the...
Hi, Charlie Bozzello. Even though some of the terms of this article are not enforceable, when you read the article, it expresses an intent. And in my mind, if it's voted favorably by the community, it puts a burden on the board to conform to the intent of the community. It obviously can't be done as written, but it would become something that has to be considered or should be considered going forward so that the intent of the 4th of July celebration conforms to the ideas expressed here. And that it is a town committee. It's something that we acknowledge as part of the town, and that it should be handled by town processes in a way that we can achieve the types of results expressed here, but in an enforceable manner.
Thank you. Any new questions? I'd like to entertain a motion to call the question.
Sure. I move that.
All right, I have a motion to call the question. That means discussion's going to, I think we've heard several different viewpoints unless somebody's objecting to that. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, a motion and a second to call the question on this discussion. All those in favor signify by raising your red card.
This just means we're ending discussion.
This just means we're ending discussion. It's not about the art, it's meaning we're going to stop talking about it. Okay. Those opposed? Okay. So.
Okay.
Just the first two sentences.
So we're voting on this.
It's just the
this.
first
This is
two
what we're voting on. Right. Just read it, have it read like that.
Okay, so the amended Article 29 petition that we are now voting on shall read as follows. To see if the town will vote to have the Ashland 4th of July Committee remain as a Town of Ashland Committee, period. The committee will have the continued free use of the L.W. Packard Field and its facilities for the Independence Day's celebration, period. That's what we're voting on. Everyone in favor of that, please raise your red card.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
8, yep, there's 8 now.
8. I'm gonna, Sherry, how are you voting? Sherry?
Sorry, no.
Okay, all right. You got the count for the,
Yep,
and
I did.
all those opposed to the motion, please raise your card. And Sherry?
Okay, 8 yes, 13 no.
Sherry is
I
opposed.
got my card up.
Oh, Sherry, so
Sherry is,
She's 13.
she's 14.
she's 14. So the count is,
8 yes, 14 no.
the motion fails. 8 voted yes, 14 voted no. So I believe the procedure is, unless there's another motion,
If there's more discussion on the original.
is there more discussion on the original petition article, the full petition article? Jane?
I have a question on funds that are donated to a municipality for a specific reason. Would that come under this RSA 3119 where the selectmen want authority to hold in trust gifts, legacies, and devices, or is that different?
For the attorney?
I'm sorry, could you repeat? I really couldn't.
I couldn't hear the first part of your question.
Sorry, my question is, when people give donations for the 4th of July, they give the fundraisers, that money is specifically for the 4th of July. So does the town have an obligation with those funds they're getting them in trust, I assume, to be used for that event? So does that come under the RSA 3119 under Article 20?
So those monies can be accepted by the town. I think the issue that was raised previously was, is that a trust fund or is it the non-lapsing fund, and is this creating a trust that's separate?
Right.
And it's this warrant article as written isn't creating that separate trust fund. But
So-
the town can accept those monies.
And then, so it would just go into the general fund, even though people gave them to the town thinking it was for the 4th of July?
I think that's kind of outside the scope of the meeting, and I'm a little worried about giving prospective advice as to how the town would handle any particular funds.
I think if it passes, then the 4th of July committee's going to have to figure out how the funds, where they're asking where the funds go. They're asking where the funds go.
Currently, how it's worked, there is a 4th of July fund that Linda Guy is in charge of. When the donations come in, it goes into that account. Got receipts,
And that's where it should go.
bank receipts for that. That's currently how it is done.
Okay, that helps. Ann?
Ann Barney, Park and Rec Department.
You have to step a little so we can hear you.
For the Park and Rec Department, I have an Adopt a Camper fund where people make donations, it goes in that line, and it can only be used for that. Is there a reason the 4th of July can't have that as well?
We do. They do.
To the attorney?
Is that a question for me? So I think the issue with this isn't, it's twofold. One is the vagueness of it in terms of figuring out what it delegates and what it doesn't. The town has certain authorities that are delegated to the selectmen unless the town chooses otherwise, like, for instance, management of the town property. Other tasks, which are those of the town manager or the board of selectmen, such as entering into contracts, are not ones that can be delegated over. The trust fund, yes, 3119 is the specific statute, but I think for the purpose of this, I can't rewrite it by offering what would work to make you create a trust fund for the purpose of this meeting.
So basically what you're saying is the only issue here is the way it is written. It can be done. What the people want is obvious. We just did not get the correct wording? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what I'm hearing.
I'm just saying, as written, this, everything after the second sentence is likely not enforceable.
Enforceable.
So if we come up with the exact wording, we could set up a fund that's just like the Adopted Camper Fund. You donate to the 4th of July, it stays there, it's used for the 4th of July.
I can't offer you an opinion on that at the meeting.
Okay.
We already
Kathleen?
have one,
Kathleen?
so why would it be different?
Kathleen?
The purpose of giving them fair warning that there were problematic issues, because the Board of Selectmen have to follow statutory rules and regulations and budgeting, that we gave them a year to communicate with us so we could go. We want them to keep the money. They raise it. We don't want to have oversight over this money as a board. We want them to be able to use every penny that they raise for that purpose. But you have to follow municipal law. And this warrant article doesn't fulfill that. So if you want a trust fund, which is not a capital reserve, it's like a savings account, that would have to be a standalone, in my opinion, warrant article, and then people could directly donate into that. But putting all of this in one warrant article makes it unenforceable.
Okay.
So I was hoping at this point that we would be talking about transitioning the money, but now we're not at that point.
Well, we have gone to meetings where we have not been allowed to speak at times.
I'm sorry?
So that, we don't want to bring that up. But anyway, basically what the people want and the wording is what is wrong, is what you're telling me. You or the board or whoever.
The town can create a trust fund. This article just does not do that.
Okay, so, but the Adopt a Camper is a line article in the... Patsy,
The what?
I don't know what the number is for, I don't know if you have it, but for the Adopt a Camper, the funds go right in there, I can use it only for the kids. Why is it we can't do that for this?
I don't know when that was done. I mean, I know it's there, and I know how it was done and stuff like that, but I would, may I?
Yes.
I think that if the people vote this article in as written, the committee and the 4th of July and the Board of Selectmen, town manager will have to do the logistics of it.
Correct.
To make it work.
We don't want to
Correct.
change what the people
Correct.
want, just because we didn't word it right, because we're not attorneys, we're town people that
Right.
want to keep a celebration going.
Right. And I think Patsy kind of summed up the process.
Bobby?
Yes, Jeanette?
Right now, they have a fund, a 4th of July fund, where all those donations go. What's happened to that fund?
I don't. Does anybody? We can't hear you,
I'm sorry.
Kathleen.
It appears it is sitting in a cash fund under the control of the town treasurer.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Under the Heritage Commission, okay.
I'm sorry, which this committee is not under the umbrella.
So it can't be under the Heritage.
All right, that is part of the issue. This money is just kind of sitting there without any
Okay.
proper accounting.
And I don't think we can resolve that today. Jane?
So it sounds like this money already is
Is
in a
there.
limbo or has an issue where it is. What I don't understand is, I understand the Board of Selectmen warned the 4th of July committee, but why can't the Board of Selectmen work with the 4th of July better? And I feel like it's too confrontational. It's
not
like these
personal.
are the town of Ashland people that live here. And I think there should be more cooperation both ways.
Kathleen?
I can answer that, Jane. You can RSA through 91A, Right to Know law. You can ask to see all the emails sent to the Select Board from the 4th of July committee that shows quite a lack of willingness to work with us. All documented, all through governmental email.
Okay, I'd like to interject. Go ahead, Fran.
I think we're getting into areas that we really shouldn't be discussing here. We're getting down into confrontation, and it's inappropriate to the discussion. I think it's clear that the Board of Selectmen supports the 4th of July committee, and I made my amendment only to ensure that the article stayed. All of the logistics, all of the finances need to be worked out, and we can sit here and point fingers, or we can move forward. Let the town decide.
I'm going to say, just to have people, this is just, again, my opinion, not as moderator. I think we kind of got to keep in mind Ashland's a town of 1,700 registered people, voters, a whole lot more taxpayers probably. We're not Boston. The KISS theory, keep it simple, stupid.
I'd like to make a motion to move the question.
I have a motion to call the question. Second by Fran. A motion to move the question is we're going to stop discussion on Article 28. Did you have a question? I did. Okay. All right, there's a motion and a second to call the question. All those in favor of calling the question, again, we're not voting on Article 28, we're saying stop discussion. Raise your ballot. I mean, your...
It's not 28, it's 29, Bobby.
29, I'm sorry, 29. Thank you. All those opposed? Count Sharian. There's one opposed. Okay. So that's over. So Article 29, petition warrant article, will appear on the warrant as fully presented today. And that's the last warrant article. Any?
As chairman of the Budget Committee, I'd like to thank everybody for coming today, and I want to thank the moderator. I think she did an excellent job.
Thank you. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.